kept him out about 6 games. Comes back, had to hit on Jimmy Vesey, which a lot of Nashville fans will recognize was the Preds' coveted pick that they had, and Jimmy Vesey spurned them and turned away, didn't refuse to sign with the Predators, goes to the Rangers. The Rangers come to Nashville this past weekend, and Philip Forsberg puts a hit on him. The league sees it as a dirty hit in a sense, and he was suspended for 3 games. So most likely will be kept out until the Montreal game, which will be this coming Saturday, to highlight some of the games coming up. Tomorrow night, the Preds go to Toronto to face Austin Matthews and the very stout Maple Leafs from the Eastern Conference. They'll follow that up with a back-to-back with Ottawa, which they don't have the greatest record this year, but they will be a good team to face. Then they'll finish off the Canadian road swing with a Montreal matchup on Saturday night with the hopeful return of Philip Forsberg. Then they will come back home on Tuesday against St. Louis, and we'll have actually a live broadcast with yourself and me live from Bridgestone Arena. So that kind of recaps the whole week. I mean, the Preds are looking to be in a good spot right now, and I think you're going to see them just try to get these points that they can to hopefully pad a lead in the Central Division. I think honestly, the Preds are just looking to have stability. They want to keep, they want to keep doing the right things and work on the things that they need to in order to be ready for that Stanley Cup run. Because as anybody knows, when Stanley Cups start, it's a whole different ball game and a whole different atmosphere. And any team can pull up anything. As again, I repeat this usually, the Preds last year came in as the 16th seed in the playoffs in the teams that made it, was one of the final 2 teams to finish the season in the Stanley Cup final. So,
one of the things that I noticed in that overtime victory over the Islanders, which was a final score of 5-4, there was a couple interesting stats per se. I've always been a numbers guy. There was 1 face-off in the entire game, 31 penalty kills, which that seems like a lot. But what's even more extraordinary, there were 200 shots on goal taken in that contest. That is amazing.
Yeah, I haven't been able to sit and look at those figures. I do know that the Predators, I believe, shot 46 shots on that were considered total shots. When you get into shots category, I mean, 46 of them were on net last night. So even if 46 of those, that's a decent percentage to be putting on the net. And you're going up against, I consider Halleck to be one of the more premier goalies. He's not elite, but he's a very good goalie. You obviously don't like to see Pekka give up 4 goals, but if you get that victory, I think anybody would agree you're happy to get that 2 points, especially against a very good team in the New York Islanders, which currently sit as a playoff team in the Eastern Conference. So something to keep an eye on. The Eastern Conference really is going to be, in my opinion, there's only a few teams that stick out in the Eastern Conference, but the rest of it I feel is it's going to be a mystery of who ends up getting into the playoffs. Because currently your defending Stanley Cup champions, the Pittsburgh Penguins, they sit, I believe, at a 5th or a 6th seed in the Eastern Conference. And lo and behold, I believe sitting in the 2nd and final wild card spot. Now, again, we do have 2 months until the end of the season, but the Philadelphia Flyers hasn't made the playoffs in the last, I believe, 2 years, are knocking right on the door. So there's a chance for some teams that haven't been there in a while to be in the playoffs this year. But again, we have a lot of hockey ahead of us here in the regular season. I believe we're down to, most teams should have about 38 games left remaining in the regular season. So
one thing I noticed, Philip Forsberg is still out with a suspension. He got called for interference on Jimmy Vesey on Saturday. Any word on how soon he would be back?
If my corrections are He set out the Islanders game, and he has 3 games he has to sit out. So I'm looking. I believe he's due back for the Montreal Canadiens game, which will be there at the Bell Center on Saturday night.
Yeah, he's out against Toronto, and they're on the road at Ottawa. So, that's the first suspension that he's had, but boy, was it a big one.
Yeah, a lot of people, including myself, Philip Forsberg has never had any disciplinary issues with the league. And just to show you the kind of the surprise, suspensions, Brad Marchand had a worse hit on I forget who it was, and he only got 6 games. Philip Forsberg's never been in trouble with the league and gets 3 games on a hit that is questionable, and questionable in the sense of how it was deemed a bad hit, especially given the position of both players. But again, this is something players know. When you hit somebody, the league is always going to review any hits that are deemed dirty, or what we consider dirty. So a lot of people were surprised with it. I think even inside of, I think Nashville would even say so themselves. I mean, because there was no penalties assessed on either player during that hit. So usually you'll see a penalty called, both players will serve or one player will serve. But this didn't happen, I don't believe so, in this game. And that's why it's unprecedented that he got 3 games for a hit that really wasn't dirty and what we would consider as a bad hit.
And a quick comment here.
It'll be interesting to see going forward if this incident will be held against him or if this was just to set an example, But I would like to think that, Philip Forsberg will probably try to reel in his game a little bit and just play as clean as possible just to elude and not have to have any of these. But this is hockey. This is what I think is missing from the game is the intensity of hitting people. Fights are down. The numbers are down with fights in the league. And for me, that's something that's always been fun about hockey is the fights. But as we try to go to a more family-friendly game and having families bring their kids out, this is something the league obviously wants to keep at a minimum.
One quick question here and a brief answer if you can. I know you're a Jordan, but if you can keep it brief. The Preds acquired Mark McNeil from the Dallas Stars for defenseman Andrew O'Brien. They're already placing McNeil up at the AHL club there in Milwaukee. What do you feel is going to be one of the things that McNeil is going to add, and what are we losing with O'Brien?
Really, this was an AHL level trade, but the Predators, I believe, went after McNeil for the one thing that they're missing now with the where they waived one of our players and was picked up by New York, believe it or not. I think it was to add a physical body. I'm sorry, I'm drawing a blank on the player that we released. But I think it was to pick up that body because we didn't have really like a true enforcer still on the roster. And I think every team wants to have one of those in the playoffs. I think Cody McLeod is the player I'm thinking of. He was a guy that really here lately wasn't utilized, and I think David Poyle went after as an option where he didn't have to give up he didn't really give up anything. O'Brien was a really good offensive defenseman, I believe is what he played defense. So I believe this is just to add a physical body. This Mark O'Neill, I believe he's a scrapper, in the sense of he's not afraid to get into a fight, ready to stick up for his teammates. So, I mean, I think we'll see this as a low risk but high reward type of return if he's utilized in the playoffs, which I think is the ultimate. What this trade was ultimately for is to add that enforcer, physical style player. Given that the Preds are more in the last 3 years, they've changed to a more up-tempo team than a conservative sit back. let things happen. So I think you're going to see this as a crucial ad, but we won't know that until the playoffs, which we got about a month and a half to go yet before we'll see if this is what the actual plan was. But that's what I've been hearing, and my thoughts of more or less this is just an AHL for AHL trade, trading between teams in the AHL. He came from the Dallas Rampage, which is in the Stars organization. Honestly, when the press release actually came out, it said that they traded O'Brien for the whole team, which it sounded really bad. It sounded like they traded for the whole franchise. So a lot of people laughed about this one because the initial press release got, I guess, lost in translation, as they say. So, but yeah, I think this is a decent trade. I think if it is what I think it will be, I think this will be it'll pay dividends at a low cost to the Predators. They didn't have to give up a lot of salary, and they didn't trade away any substantial player. But we got the February 26th trade deadline, which will be coming up. So keep ahead for any Preds Pulse we'll have here in the next 2 weeks. And just to add in there real quick, Preds Pulse will be going to a video on demand feature here on Facebook, hopefully within the next 2 weeks, pending any technology issues. So please look forward to that. We're looking to feature that here on 92.7 Chattanooga Radio.
All right. Thanks a lot, Sam. We'll talk to you again soon. All right.
Thank you.
Yep. Have a great night, guys. All right. That's Sam Jordan checking in with Preds Pulse. Also, they've got a wait list already started for the 2018-19 season tickets, and you can go to NashvillePredators.com to find out more. All right, let's get things wrapped up here. Dalton State releasing their spring golf schedule for the 2018 Roadrunners season for the men's. They will be facing a lot of top talent in the country. They'll begin ranked as number 2, and will begin the spring in Florida at the Georgetown College Men's Invitational in St. Augustine, February 19th and 20th. And, nice climate for them to start off their season. Dalton State will get a 2-week break before they start a grueling 3-week stretch that will take them across the country, beginning in Bluffton, South Carolina, in the Beaufort area. And then they will travel to Hattiesburg, Mississippi. And then they will head on over to Primm, Nevada for the Battle at Primm. So they will be having an extensive season there. And postseason play will get underway April 16th in the 3-day Southern States Athletic Conference Championship at Arrowhead Country Club over in Montgomery, Alabama. First event of the season will be the NAIA National Championship at TPC Deer Run in Silvis, Illinois on May 15th through the 18th. So it'll be a great season for them. Also, Cleveland State baseball already underway. They dropped their season opener on Monday, losing to Roane State by a score of 4-3. Scoring started off in the top of the third inning when Noah Peterson lined a double into the outfield, sending Trey Vanderpool to third. And Vanderpool ended up scoring off an error made by the Roane State right fielder. Roane State quickly answered in the following inning, tying the game up at 1 apiece, and they kept going and going and going. But Cleveland State dropping their season opener 4-3. Also, Covenant baseball team could not crack the win column earlier today as the Scots dropped their 2018 home opener to visiting Oglethorpe, 14-0 on a chilly, overcast afternoon. I could only imagine what that would have been like. The loss drops Covenant to 0-3 on the year, while Oglethorpe goes to 3-0, completing the 3-game sweep of the Scots. Oglethorpe took advantage of 15 walks and 3 hit batters to pull away for the victory. The Stormy Petrels scored in the top of the first on Adrian Salada's RBI single before scoring 3 runs in both the third and fourth innings to build a 7-0 edge. 6-run seventh inning cemented the win for Oglethorpe. Covenant was held to just 2 hits by 4 Oglethorpe pitchers. Joel Johnson singled in the first inning, Ken Alexander recording his first collegiate hit in the 5th for the 2 Scots hits on the day. Tristan Green took the loss in his collegiate debut on the mound for the Scots, going 2.2 innings. Covenant used 7 relievers on the day, including the pitching debuts of Adam Carver and Alex Gonzalez. Noah Cole, 0-1, received the win for Oglethorpe, or rather 1-0. Got the win for Oglethorpe as he tossed 4 innings. Covenant opens a 3-game series against Emory on Friday. First pitch set for 2 o'clock. Keon Rose is up next with the clutch. Till later on, Sam Jordan with Sports Talk with Sam Jordan here on Nooga Radio. Have a great night. See you later.